We're live. Sorry, just checking mute on my mic. Welcome back again to the Australian Masters for 2024. We are now in round 3. The scenario is Invade, and we have Matt Curtis versus Ed H, because I'm not going to pronounce that surname. Ed's playing his Empire of Dust against Matt's Elves. So we can see they're just putting their gear on the table now. Deployment is starting, so let's just cut across over there. Okay, now I've still got to tidy some things up for the stream here. Okay, so Invade, a very simple scenario. Basically, you just got to get your stuff over onto your opponent's half of the side, half of the table, and if they survive, then they score. Easy, in theory. Getting there is another matter. So we can see Matt is up the top, we have Ed down the bottom. I'll go through all this crap shortly. Let me just bring up the previous round. I think that's right, apart from the spelling and some names. There we go. So a couple of upsets there, Lyle being one of them. Looks like Matt Curtis hasn't been doing too well. Former Master taking the win there. And Jeff Tracey taking the top spot as he usually does. Now we'll just jump back over to... Oh no, let's go to the round. This is what the current matchings are. Probably doesn't mean much to you, but too bad. Here we go to what's happening on the table. And I'll change these. Cool. Alright. Welcome back, fellas. The Joshes. Lunch was just a simple double egg wrap with another CC and dry. It was very adequate. Did the trick. And thanks for the donations before. That helps me keep going on this very long day, and tomorrow as well. Jeez. Okay. Who have we got? Ed. His Empire of Dusty Boys, which are basically Egyptian undead. No tokens in this one, so we get rid of those markers. And we're still in deployment here. And then we'll go through their lists. Okay. Whew. Alright, let's bring up what these fellas are playing. We'll start off with Ed. Okay, so the Empire of Dust, like I was saying, the Egyptian undead. We have 3 regiments of mummies with Casket of the Damned, which I think allows them to scout, so before the first turn, they can make a movement order. Just gets them in the middle of the field a bit faster. We have a regiment of Revenants and a horde of Revenants, also with the caskets, so they too can scout. These are just infantry with solid defense 5. And the horde has the Hammer of Measured Force, so regardless of how defensive his opponent is, that unit there will always be damaging them on 4s, so it's 50-50. Then we have Enslaved Guardian Archers. These are large infantry with bows. They shoot 30 inches almost across the entire length of the board, piercing 2. They don't hit all that well on range 5, but it doesn't matter if you're throwing 2 lots of 18 at your opponent. And then Enslaved Guardians, so basically the same thing without bows. They fight a bit better, I guess, and a little bit of defense. A Soul Snare. Now this is a war engine. It does one thing. It casts Drain Life. It damages its opponents and heals nearby friends. That's all it does. An Ammonite Pharaoh, that's a hero. Got the Eternal Guard upgrade. He's knowledgeable, so he's paid an extra unlock to allow him to use the Host Shadow Beast spell, which basically makes him a bit of a combat monster. If he can cast that, fine. Then he does a lot of damage in combat. Josh Davis, does life... Yes, it does. So Life Leech is basically as it says, but you have to cause damage to be able to get that life back. If you go into combat doing no damage, you're not getting anything back. And a lot of them do have Life Leech, or in the case of the mummies, they have Life Leech as well as Regeneration 5, which means whenever they do a move order, at the end of that order, they roll as many dice as they've got damage taken, and on any roll of a 5 up, they take, or they heal 1 point of damage. So they're quite resilient, especially with this defensive 5 as well. Pretty sturdy. Oh, there's only one more unit after the Pharaoh. The Idol of Shobik. This guy's a dick. He's defense 6. He is fearless 18, so you can't waver him. That means you have to take him out. You can't just make him stop doing things. It gives an aura of Iron Resolve, which means any nerve check that Matt does, if he fails, if he doesn't take the unit off, that unit heals 1. That combined with Life Leech, combined with Regen, can be quite good. And inspires to make everyone re-roll that nerve check if they happen to pass it. He's a big, old, rocky giant. And then we jump to Matt Curtis's Elves. We have 3 units of Therenian Sea Guard, 3 hordes. This is a ranged and melee combat unit. Where is Cleopatra? She ain't here, buddy. Sorry. Yeah, both a hybrid ranged and melee combat unit. Again, like one of Ed's units, one has the Hammer of Measured Force, always damaging on 4s. So against that big rocky statue guy, would be pretty good. Getting through that defense 6. One has Fire Oil, which means it deals extra damage to units with the regeneration rule, like the mummies. And as you can see, they both have bows, so 25 bow attacks as well as 25 melee attacks. Stormwind Cavalry, they're just cavalry. Jesse's boots allow him to ignore terrain once per game. He has to declare it when he goes to move. It gets used, and then he just ignores that piece of terrain. You can't go through buildings, it's just sort of like forests and ponds and all that stuff. Drakon Riders, small dragon riders. There's 2 hordes of them. These are flying cavalry. They hit well. Helm of the Drunken Ram makes them hit harder, but they can't ignore the terrain rules, sort of like what this boots does. Not that it matters anyway, because they can't do that normally. And the Staying Stone, just a little cheap item. It makes their their waver value, just increases it by 1 point. Just slightly less likely to waver. And when you waver, it means your unit can't do anything really. 2 heroes, Elven Archmages. They both have Lightning Bolt 5, so they're throwing 5 dice to cast the Lightning Bolt. And one is a buff spell, Banechant 2, to try and increase that damage that his units might do in combat. Nimue, Way Dancer, a special hero. Reasonably good, Fireball 10, but also has the options to heal and also surge, but I don't think he's got anything that is surgeable, so we'll ignore that. And Wind Blast to push Ed's units around. A Tree Herder, which is sort of like Ed's Idol of Shobik, a giant tree. Defense 6, fewer attacks. Radiance of Life, so at the end of every movement, anything within 6 inches heals 1 point. This little aura of healing. And last one is Argus Rodonar. He's a pretty basic unit, no attacks or anything. He inspires to make Ed reroll nerve checks that fail. Oh, sorry, that succeed. And this thing, I think, basically you say, this unit over here, that's inspiring now. So you've always got some inspiring somewhere on the board. I can't remember what that one does, so we'll just ignore it. Alright, let's get back to the game. Looks like they've finished deploying. For the most part, flying does ignore terrain, but if you're landing in it, it doesn't. So you can start in a forest and fly out fine, but if you're trying to fly into it, you can't. Unless you have the Pathfinder special rule, because they find paths and nowhere to land. What's great about flying is it allows you to go over units though, which is really handy. You can screen your flyers with a piece of crap unit, and when the time's right, basically leapfrog over it to charge something else. Ah, delicious. Alrighty. Okay, so the train's changed up a bit. We have a couple of hills right in the center there. Let me just get my little drawing tool. So we've got a hill here and a hill here. That'll block line of sight. So if there's infantry trying to shoot over it, they can't unless they're hitting something large. Ed's enslaved guardian archers are the same height, so they won't be able to see over the hills either. If there was a dragon, that's a different thing. We've got 2 lakes or forests. That'll slow down movement unless they've got Pathfinder. So here and here. And this is supposed to be a forest, but they've sort of moved the trees away. This bit here can't be passed through, neither can this, unless you fly. You just basically fly over the top. And it also looks like Matt has put a unit here inside the forest, maybe for cover, who knows. So it looks like Ed has taken the first turn and decided to go first, which is probably a good thing in this scenario because, again, you need to get over the halfway line. And you need to have that unit survive until the end of the game. Okay, or maybe he doesn't have the first turn, maybe he's just... No, he has. So they've scouted, they've moved things forward, and they're getting stuck into combat already. Very little shooting in Ed's list, other than those spells. Oh, this, I guess it's enslaved guardian archers. Which I'm not sure where he's put them. Can't quite see. Okay, looks like there is... Keep dropping my pen, forgetting where I put it. So the units to be aware of are... This is looks like an archer unit, and also down here, just slightly off camera, is an archer unit. We've also got, looks like this is the big boy, the idol of Shobik, is here. He's quite commanding, and then we've got 1, 2, 3 regiments of mummies. And on Matt's side, we have... That looks like that might be the tree herder right dead center, this thing here. Big old tree, taking the charge from the Revenants. Revenants are just standard infantry troops, they hit on 4s, defense of 5. One of them does have the Hammer of Measured Force, if you remember. And this is, again, assuming that's what I can see from here. And it looks like he's taken him off. First blood. Yep, that's the tree gone. That is a really good start for Ed, because that tree is 260 points. More than 10% of the entire army list. Yeah, well, no one's really attacking their house. I guess they get a good view of the battle that's going on. What else have we got there? Okay, so it looks like the important units now, that the bloody big old tree's gone, these Drakon Riders, that'll be key. There's 2 units there. big hard-hitting flying hordes. Oh, nope, no, yep, okay. And it's not a fantastic list. They're the important things now that the tree's gone. So he's got to keep them alive. I mean, he does have 3 hordes of Therenian Seaguard. They're only defense 4, but they're 21, 23. And they're elves, so elves naturally are pretty good in combat, which means when they go to hit something, any result over 1, they get to reroll. It's not like they can continually to reroll once, just that first time. You can only reroll once. And it looks like the camera's buggered up again, so let me just see if I can fix that. Yeah, I might have to turn it off and back on again. That old trick. Huzzah! Ooh, almost did a thing I didn't want to do. Cool. Right. Okay, so things that Ed and Matt need to worry about. Obviously the big flying hordes are very threatening. And what Ed doesn't want to do is allow Matt to get across here into the back line so he can see all of this stuff and start doing some heavy damage if left unchecked. Usually undead, both the Egyptian and regular, are pretty good at this stuff if they have things that can be surged. So what's special about undead is a lot of their units are shambling, which means they can't move twice normal speed. They can't at the double. They can only go their standard speed. But there is a spell called Surge that you cast it on them, and it, however many dice you succeed on a 4+, is how far they move forward. And you can charge things as well. So if you roll Surge 6 and get 4 successes, they move 4 inches forward. If they happen to hit or make contact with an enemy unit, it counts as charging. So if something flies over the back, you can just basically pivot your shambling unit to face them, and then cast Surge to get them into combat in the shooting phase. But I don't think Ed has any of that. His Ammonite Pharaoh has Surge 8, I guess. And his Revenants are shambling, so I guess that is an option. No, the mummies shamble too. Maybe everything shambles. I don't know what I'm talking about. So he's got some pretty good counters to flying. But Matt Curtis is not a novice. He's played at the Masters almost every year for as long as I can remember, and knows how to use flying. I remember a year or 2 ago he took an all-flying list against my goblins and managed to pit me. So I know how they play. North has a very good defensive position, not good for attack though. Yeah, and considering that you need to be across the board to score, doesn't matter how much you kill, if you're not over that halfway line, you're not getting the points. So he's just shuffling over. I mean, there's 6 turns as well, so there's plenty of time at the moment. But Ed is just going to push forward. Then hopefully, I would think, try and survive with all that regen and life leech and radiance of life and all that. And if Matt can't deal enough damage to get through it, then he loses. But again, those flyers will be key. If they can get around the back and get triple attacks on whatever they hit in the rear, then they should be able to take anything out in 1 round. So it looks like he's firing his Therenian Seaguard bows at the Guardian Archer unit on the right corner there. Looks like Ed is not using dice, but what are these little things? Knitting needle row counters, which is what I use as well, because it has the number on it, and they go up really high. Okay, so he's focus firing onto that archer unit. He knocked the house, that's a red card. Take a time penalty. Matt Curtis has been known to get very, very close on the clock. Analysis paralysis and all that jazz. And that little griffin slash dragon riders having a bit of a rough day. Bit stormy. Swinging around as the table gets knocked. Geez, that was quick. Turn 2. Might be a quick game. I haven't written the current standings yet. Maybe I'll do that towards the end of this round. Depends on how fast this game ends up. But you should be able to check it out on the Mantic Companion, Kings of War, Australia, possibly Fanatics. I think Matt Croger has posted that, maybe? Where you can follow the results live in that app. Otherwise, I'll just post them later. Let's take a look at the Ringers 5 Facebook page. So Ed's moving his idol of Shobek up onto the hill behind his enslaved guardians, which are the large infantry just ahead. So there's the idol of Shobek. These are the large infantry fighting unit, the fighting version of the archers. Is he going to do anything with it? Who knows? He probably doesn't need that bonus thunderous charge for charging off the hill, because elves aren't the most hardy of creatures. Having a look at his list, all those elves, the Thronian Sea Guard, are defense 4, and I'm pretty sure those enslaved guardians are crushing 2. Yeah, so you'll be rolling 2s to wound anyway. I think that might be the Soul Snare as well, the thing that casts Drain Life. Yeah, and Drain Life is a short range spell, so he has to get a little close to him. But with that Soul Snare, Drain Lifing Matt's elves and then healing up any of those big boys, that'd be such a pain. Maybe Matt is just biding his time up the top left just to see what Ed's doing. Who knows? Who do you think is favoured in this game? Ed's looking like he's in a good position, like because of the scenario. It's not like he has to run around looking for tokens or anything like that. He can just focus on trying to get across that halfway line. I guess we'll see in turn 4. I think will probably be when we can have a clear idea of who's in the best position to win. So it looks like Ed's casting spells on his own unit to heal, and he is slowly taking that damage back off that Matt's worked to put on there. Yeah, it's difficult. We'll see what happens in Matt's turn. What he does with those Drakon Riders, the flyers. Because Matt's a really good player. Ed's list is not the greatest, but I think Ed's probably got a good matchup for this scenario. Okay, now we've got the enslaved Guardian Archers. They're taking aim and firing. So I'm pretty sure it is this unit here. If I can bring up the what's it. This one here. And not sure which target he's shooting. Let's take a look, see what Matt puts down. Okay, so this one here. So, and then these ones here will be firing at these Dracon Riders. Looks like he only put 9 on that horde at the top right. So, not a whole lot. I don't think you'll be able to get them this round. You'll have to roll really high. He'll take your boy Ed. Hey! Ed, welcome. Good morning. Yes, that's crazy. 4 AM is too early. It's too early for anything. But glad you're here. Okay, that's Ed's turn. No combat there. He's just had his shooting. Didn't take anything off. He's just put in some more damage onto the Elves. Now we're at the bottom of the turn with Matt studying the table. What is he going to do? You probably can't see it because I'm having difficulty to see it, but I think there's a unit here behind these Dracons. I think that's Argus Rodinar. That's the special character that just sort of allows any unit of his to be inspired. Point and click. Now that's got inspiring. And again, inspiring just means that if Ed rolls his nerve and rolls over it to take him off, he has to re-roll it. Okay, nice easy charge there. Dracon Raiders on the far left, going down to attack the enslaved Guardian Archers. That should be an easy fight. Even though the enslaved Guardian Archers are large infantry, they're still only fighting on 5s. Like they need. No, wait, they're 4s. They're actually not that bad. Who knows? We'll see what happens on the charge. They're not crap in combat. That's probably why they're so expensive. Are the lists available somewhere? Yeah, they should be. If you go to the Direct Misfire YouTube, I think they're in the discussion notes, or maybe on the what is it? Comments of the first video. I'll post a link into this chat as well. I'll just go and find them. If I can find them. Ed should move up the right flank to conservative. Yeah. But is probably not doing it because that very right side, they're archers, and I think he just wants to make the most out of them, just get as many shots as he can, because he's still got a bunch more turns just to get over that halfway line. And again, his units are shambling, so they can only move their speed. They can't run. They can't go at the double. That's why they're sort of slowly trudging along the ground there. I'm sure if he could, he would. But he can't, so he won't. Okay, I think I've got the link for you here, Ed. See if this works. Or does that not like it? Ugh, that's gross. Let me get a smaller link for you. Okay, try this. Alright, looks like Matt's moving his individual characters back a bit. keeping his distance. I think they're the 2 mages that he's got. He's only got a couple. Nimue Way Dancer, which is the fancy spellcaster with a range of spells. And the other 2 mages just have basically Lightning Bolt and the buff spell. And it might be a bit hard to see, but we've also got 1 individual here, and then there's 1, 2 here. Another thing with these hills, they've got sheer faces on the outside, so you can't really rest a model on the side without propping them up. It is a little dangerous. I think also with what Matt has done, making that charge, it might take him a couple of turns over here, but once he's done with that combat, he can then face that direction. Why am I terrible at drawing arrows? And then we've got flanks exposed. If Ed pushes forward for the objective, then he's got the rear exposed, which you never want to expose your rear in Kings of War. Or in public. So it looks like he's getting some more damage popped on a range of units. You can see a couple of damage being done on that one, and on that one, and that one, and that one, so not focus firing at all. Sort of spreading the love. So lightning bolt slowly ticking up. To those who love. Or those who ask for it. You don't have to like them. Or if they're paying you good money. So we're just checking to see if someone's inspired or... See, this is like the problem when you're checking distances and you're accidentally sort of nudging models, and now they've got a little bit further because of the accidental nudge, but you don't pick it up because it might seem rude putting them forward a little bit, yeah. Especially it's high level play as well. But I think Matt and Ed are at the lower end of the rankings in this tournament currently. They haven't been performing too well. But I wanted to show you different armies on stream and not just the top table, because then you're watching the same thing over and over and over again.
Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. And I assume all of these.
So I'm guessing this is one horde of the Therenian Sea Guard. Cool. Excellent. Good to hear, Ed. Getting some damage on that Revenant Horde, right in the center there. Starting to tick away at them. Defense 5, remembering. Not the most damaging, hitting on 4s with no real crushing. And the Hammer of Measured Force isn't going to do much on these Elves because they're already defense 4, so sort of almost like wasted points. And they've only got Life Leech 1, so even if he does reach combat, he's only healing 1 little bit back. But we'll see what happens with the Radiance of Life from the Idol of Shobik to try and keep things healthy, and the Drain Life from the Soul Snare, which I think is still about. Looks like the second round of shooting from another Horde, which does 1 more point of damage. 25 shots, 1 hit, 1 wound. Probably because they can't actually see them very well, so they've got cover behind that hill. Which means their ranged goes from needing 5s to needing 6s. So these guys shooting at them, yeah, most of the unit is covered. So they get that cover rule. So yeah, hitting on 6s instead, which is why only one hit. And it looks like this archer unit took a shot at them and only did 1 damage.
Oh no, it's a 4. It's enough. I need a 3.
And they've taken off the Soul Snare. That's Ed's Drained Life character. It's Fearless 15, only has Defense 4, so it could put on the damage pretty easily. So that's one source of damage and healing gone for Ed.
That's okay. It's limited spaces.
Yeah, Monolith is usually in every list as well, Ed. But he didn't take it.
I don't need these.
They usually auto includes, allowing to pick and choose what unit you want to search just because you can't stop it. Good point, Josh D. And as expected, that Drakon Rider unit has taken out that Enslaved Guardian Archers and now is facing in that direction. That doesn't look very good either. Okay, turn 3. Much quicker than the previous match. I guess it helps when you don't move your stuff. I guess Elves are faster than Empire of Dust. On average. With Ed's stuff being mostly speed 5 and the Elves mostly speed 6, so you'll still need 2 turns to get over that halfway line. So if Matt doesn't start moving down next turn, he might be in trouble. Yeah, that's right, Ed. No upgrade for those cavalry. They're just standard cavalry, which is also a bit of a question mark. Aussie fashions are really wet. No, just these ones are. These are not good examples. I think if you take a look at the countercharge army review, I think we point that out as well.
In which case,
Where myself, Matt Croger, one of the organisers, and Jeremy Bear, I think his name is, Barry, we go through each list and nitpick. Next, round 4, next day, tomorrow. Ugh, it's a long day. We'll start getting into the nitty-gritty, and we'll definitely have Jeff retracing his currently top of the pack Abyssal Dwarfs. See if we can't get whoever's on table 2, and then the final game, round 5, have the current masters, or the 2 players who are in the lead on stream. I don't think Ed has the speed to sort of do that, weigh everything on one side and fish hook it because of all the shambling, and he doesn't really have much surge. So he'd be slowly clomping along the map. Yeah, he's got the caskets for that turn 0 movement, but it's not enough. It's just a bit weird that Matt's not moving. He's had one unit come out, so it's like he's spending all of his turns just shooting, just to try and get rid of everything. And to be fair, he has taken out the casket and the archers.
I'll do 9 shots.
And Matt has also thrown away that big tree character in the first turn.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, yep, fair. Sorry, man. No, you're right. That's why they
He's doing some shooting.
so 5 would
Me, a bit more damage on. What have we got?
add 9 to it for those nurse. 14.
Alright, looks like he's rolled dead on to take that horde off. 14 damage, Ed rolled a 9 for a total of 23, which is the perfect number he needed to take off that horde.
Look, that's my turn. What are you going to do? Decide.
And he's not moving anything else, that's his turn.
Do your moves. I trust you. Oh, I'm a jumper.
We got you on camera, you can't cheat. Alright, looks like Ed is just going to take a pee break. So what shot then?
The half shots on sixes, dude,
Ah, okay, right.
and then roll pitch ball.
Yeah. So why that was a bit of an upset there is these enslaved Guardian Archers, they hit on 5s normally. They don't have steady aim, so if they move, they're now hitting on 6s. And because those guys were in cover as well, it goes to 7s, and because you can't roll a 7 on a dice, it halves your amount of shots. So he was rolling 9 dice, hitting on 6s. I think he did 4 damage to take them off, which is pretty good. Certainly non-standard. He must have rolled a few 6s. So now we have the bottom of the third. Matt slowly swinging those Drakon Riders down the bottom left. And it looks like they're facing in this direction. So the rears of each of these are exposed. I reckon he could probably reach the flank there as well. These are all fine, but for how long?
You're speed 5. You're out.
And Ed can't really do anything about those Drakons now. Sure, he can turn these guys around so they're not seeing. These guys might be actually in the flank, so they actually won't fit in there. There's just no room. Which is something, I guess, but it's still a bit of a pain to be in that position. So now I think it's Matt's time to move in. You can't just keep taking shots like that. In go the Drakon Riders into, I think that's a Revenant's regiment. They should be fine. Well, fine to destroy. Because the Revenant's regiment, defense 5, their fearless 17, that's still pretty good. We'll see what happens. And Matt still has those 2 little individuals there. They're probably not going to do anything, they're just going to cast spells. And it looks like he's also got the Sea Guard Horde charging into the flank of the Revenants, which means they are doubling their attacks now. 50 attacks, hitting on 4s. With elite as well. They might be the ones with the Hammer of Measured Force, which means they're wounding on 4s as well. I guess you'll find out when he starts rolling. So Matt might clean up here. Dracon's in the back, Dracon's in the front. Running out of things. It's quite an elite list. Only 11 units on the table for Ed, and 11 for Matt as well. So it doesn't take much once the units start disappearing for the board to start looking pretty thin. That Glider's a master twerker. It's part of the psychology. And while it might look like he's actually facing that miniature this way, it's just because it's probably getting in the way of miniatures and all that jazz. And they're even raised up as well, like, probably can't see. I'll turn the camera on, hang on. Let's have a look here. Alright, so I'll just grab the camera and let's see if you can see Matt's stuff. So they can't quite focus in, but you'll see they're quite raised. So he's done a good job of raising the miniatures to try and not, hang on, stay put, stupid camera, to avoid all the things getting caught up when you're moving them about. Yeah, I would have thought he'd go for a mummy regiment, start taking them off, because at the moment those Dracons are scoring, they're on Ed's side of the board.
I'll give it to you.
The Dracon should be able to get in next turn. It's just turn 4, but still that's probably a bit late. I don't know, at least they're in. And look, he might clean up in the middle, and then it's all moot. The thing with commentating an event like this, it makes me want to play a game, but by the time everyone's done by the end of the day, and I've got the opportunity to, no one wants to. Ah, tasty, tasty. Drinky, drinkies. Alright. So what is the halfway point? Just eyeballing. Okay. Probably. Let's see. How do we do this? It is around about here. It helps if I actually change the colour to not green. And let's try that again. It's sort of... Oh, wrong tool. Your tool. Alright. Try again. It should be about here. I think that's what we're looking at. So Ed's got a bit, but he has to survive to count. And I'm sure Matt will be able to get more across at this stage. We're only halfway. So lots of dice being thrown. That looks like a flank charge in that horde if I've ever seen one. 50 attacks. The unit at the base of the central hill would not count for Ed. The one that is on the hill is still in Matt's side, like the Dracons. And you sort of have to have the majority of the unit across. They can't just be touching. Yep. Flank charge into the horde will do the trick. Yeah, so it's got to be the majority. If your unit is exactly halfway, it doesn't count at all. I'm pretty sure. So don't do that. So currently, if the game were to end now, Ed's got that one scoring, this one's scoring, that is not going to be on it. I know it's not a straight line. And then Matt's got that one scoring. So not a whole lot currently. And Matt would lose because that Dracon Rider Horde has unit strength 3, whereas Ed's has the Idol of Shobek, which is unit strength 1, plus the Enslaved Guardians, which are unit strength 3, so that'll be 3 to 4. So I've got some more combats here. Plus 1 iota. Yeah, or 1 hair, yeah. Those Dracon Riders have 18 attacks. Bleh. 18 attacks hitting on 3s, unless they're hindered, so in the terrain, which they're not. Crushing Strength 1, Thunderous Charge 1 and 2. One's got a Helm of the Drunken Ram, giving him that extra Thunderous Charge, which means he's damaging just about everything on 2s, which is what happened. Take it off. That was the second Revenant unit that Ed had. It was just a regiment, Vila 17. And now we have 2 Dracon Hordes staring down the 3 mummies. The 3 regiments of mummies. Bad position to be in. You never want to see that. And because the turns are going quite quick, I don't think this game's going to last much longer. Invade's always a good scenario to have at the end of a tournament just because it doesn't require a whole lot of thinking. Unlike other scenarios where you've got tokens and bluff counters and all this other rubbish. Let's just get across the board. And then we have a giant invading the table. A giant Ed. That works on 2 levels. Yes, that's correct, Ed. You should have enough. And then could easily skip over. Like those Storm Cav, the cavalry in the forest in the top left, they haven't moved yet. They're just chilling. And they're speed 9, I believe, so they can get across the board pretty quick. And they've got the Jesse's Boots of Striding, which allows them to ignore terrain once per game. Essentially, that's what it does anyway. Okay, so he is pivoting his mummies and moving it across closer to the Dracons. They've regenerated some of the damage that had been done to them. Only a couple. try start typing up the current standings. For when this game ends. If I can find it. Oh, I probably shouldn't type it up now because once this round ends, things are going to shift about. No bugger it, I'm doing it for my own sanity. It's Jeff's, not Jeff, Ed's fiddle faddling about. Curious to see how some of the other games are going. Notably Andrew Goodman versus Damien Madigan, who are both top picks. They're currently facing off.
It's a good way for us to be there.
Alright, so it looks like he's been able to cast Surge on that regiment of mummies to get them into combat. So that's what I was talking about, the fly defense. Pivoted, moved, which was fine, because you can only charge something if you can see it, like if it's in your front arc, and at that time they weren't. So you pivot and move, get as close as you can, and then cast Surge, and hopefully you get enough dice on the success to get them into combat.
Well, the other option is
Okay, looks like there's some discussion as to what they can do, so they've just paused the clock. Hopefully they remember to start it again. There has been some controversy in previous Masters where the clock has been paused and not started.
from 1 inch away, but I fully understand we'll get him independent.
We've got to get him independent because we now know that worked. He was trolling it. But there's
Well,
a difference between...
I was 1 inch away.
Yeah,
I
but there's a
would have
difference between trolling
and if I did that, I would re-roll the surge.
We're here now. My preference, if you're okay with it, is just get an independent.
I am quite happy with that.
Because I think they might just have a shot at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like that, Josh. Dwarves. It seems like not a lot's going on, and then things just get shot off, and that's it. At least we've got some movement happening here. If you tune in tomorrow, we'll get some games with a couple of the tippy-top players. And you should see some very high-level play and very clean movement and interesting sort of scenarios and problems that the players give each other. Matt Croger stepping in for a moment to adjudicate a rules query. I'm not sure what it is that they're discussing because I got the headphones on.
I was taking it that they were partnering with the hill because of the
Like, that part is visible, but they don't count it.
I'm thinking that Ed was of the understanding that this particular, let me get my pen up, this particular unit was on the hill because the sort of hill's there and they are touching it, but just because you're touching hill doesn't mean you're on it. You have to be at least 50% on the hill to be technically on the hill, and so things can see it and whatnot. I think it's so these guys could potentially shoot But because there's a big old giant statue in the way, they might not, if they're not on the hill. That looks like it. Or maybe they're just trying to determine whether or not that unit's in cover. Which they weren't, so hitting on 6s and doing only 2 wounds to it. Don't think it would have mattered too much. Still hitting on 5s. Yeah, gotta speak to the manager. Sort of. Like, you can be touching a hill, but you have to be at least 50% on to be classes on it. Otherwise you just have a few dudes standing there, the rest are not. And because like the edges of the hill are so sheer, and it's not like the units are, the bases are flexible. It just sort of looks a bit weird. It's one of those weird tabletop wargaming issues with large bases like this. Alright, and that's the end of Ed's turn 4. Again, not much. The mummies didn't move much. They did charge and did almost nothing to the Drakon horde, if anything. They would have been hindered coming out of... Oh no, they wouldn't have. Nah. Ignore me. Rewind that. Now we're getting real technical here. Drakon riders attacking the front here. I think Ed may have tried to line it up so that couldn't happen, but because it was on such an angle, there might have been like half a centimetre, maybe a centimetre, that these guys could sort of fit in and make contact, and therefore make it a legal charge. But again, if the unit fits, it sits. If not, you can't charge it. And that just comes down to getting used to moving like that, being a bit more specific and deliberate with your positioning, and not just sort of eyeballing it. If you're intending to do a particular thing, it's always best to sort of announce that to your opponent, get the confirmation, and then this sort of stuff doesn't happen. Very easy. Okay, looks like the other Therenian Seaguard horde charging the flank of the mummies, along with the countercharge of the Drakon Raiders. So that mummy should be gone. And then we have the Stormwind Cav coming out of the forest, using those Jesse's Boots of Striding to ignore that terrain, and not be hindered, into the mummies. I'll just have a quick look just to see what angle those mummies are, if they were facing front or if they're getting charged in the butt. Is in the front. Still a Night Horde. Oh, sorry, a Night Regiment being charged unhindered, which is probably going to hurt. Yeah, pretty much. So forests and water, they act sort of the same, like, other than like forests are tall and you can't see through them if you're not in them. Water is, I think it's described as a height 0 difficult terrain. So if you're charging into it and you don't have that Pathfinder rule to sort of ignore it, you're going to be hindered, making your rolls to hit -1. So the Drakon Riders that would normally hit on 3s are now hitting on 4s. If the mummies survive and they hit back, they won't, because you don't worry about those terrain rules when you're counter-charging. If for some reason he decided to not counter-charge and just do a normal charge, it's weird. Don't question it, it rarely comes up. He would then be hindered. But yeah, if you charge into the water or forest or something and you don't have that Pathfinder rule, you're going to be at -1 to hit. Which is why it's good to have some units like archers sitting in forests, because they don't want to get out of the forest to charge things, they just want to stand there and shoot. And anything that wants to get them has to navigate the forest and be hindered. Even better if you have a unit with the ensnare rule, which is anything in the front is -1 to hit, just because, like they got nets or whatever, and they're in the forest, that's -2. Not too many units have ensnare though, thankfully. Because that would be a right pain in the buttocks. Yeah, yes, it does sort of make you want to play Total War. It's a good game, that. I've got 1 and 2. I played 3 while it was on. Well, I had what's it? We'll call it the Game Pass. I never actually bought it. Still waiting for it to go on sale. And I had a not so good PC when it was on Game Pass, and it was pretty rough. My current rig should be fine though. Had some good times in that game. The terrain is like in the Victorian MP obstruction. Yes, yes it is. That's the point. That's one of the, I guess love it or hate it, things about Kings of War is because a whole lot of it is about the movement and managing the terrain, not just bashing heads, which is what I find a lot of old Warhammer games where ended up being no terrain to sort of worry about. Alright, coming down to the nitty gritty here, we should see 3 regiments of mummies disappear. Possibly there's got this could be over this turn if he rolls well enough. Yeah, I should go back into Total War 3. Total War. Why don't they call it Total Warhammer 3? Anyway, I'm sure the balance patches would have come through. And some of the janky stuff when I first played is no longer janky. Idol of Shobik might be the only one left standing. He's such a pain to shift. Looks like he's wind blasted the idol, putting him in a position where he can't quite see things for the next turn, which is quick thinking, good move. I was trying to see what angle that idol is currently facing. Alright, so this is what's happened. So the idol was sort of here-ish, facing in this direction. That was a backwards arrow. And so in Ed's turn, he should be able to charge that, because you get 1 pivot when you go to charge. But now he's been wind blasted, and is now here. With 1 pivot, he can't get into that unit. He can't pivot, go this way, pivot, and get that way into the unit. So that wind blast has just saved that horde from being charged. Very tricky. Which is a good use of wind blast. Does he only need 1 unit over the line to win? Well, he needs 1 unit to attempt to score, but if your opponent has nothing over the line, then 1 will do it. Yeah, Ed certainly didn't deploy very well. I agree there. Because those mummies have done nothing. Those sort of like a throwaway. Again, it's difficult when you've got 2 hordes of flying large cavalry that can just hop over the back of you. And so Ed would have to turn around to face them, or just get charged in the rear. Ed's list is probably not very good. And again, I think we've already said that in the list review stream the other day. Right, so we're doing the Storm and Cav into the mummies. Did a fair amount of wounds, but rolled low. So the mummy's old. Not that they're going to do anything. I mean, there's 12 attacks I'm pretty sure they've got. Not very many. Hitting on 4s. with Crushing 2, so they can get through some armor if they hit. And that's one unit gone, leaving those Drakon free to charge the thing next turn in Matt's 5. So yeah, you can probably see it's almost a foregone conclusion here. I'll just double check the time because we said that in the previous round and Rex timed out. Plenty of time left on Matt's clock, 17 minutes, Ed's got 30. And now we've got that poor regiment unit that's being DP'd. Which means double punched, for anyone who wants to know. Yeah, pretty much. Crushing 2 ignores 2 points of armor, so if you're defense 6, you need 4s to hit. If you're defense 4, you only need 2s. Pretty sure those knights are defense 5, so if those mummies are punching back, they're hitting on 4s and would need 3s to damage. And there's a couple of spells to try and augment that to either weaken or increase. Debuff and buff respectively. And knights often have what we call Thunderous Charge, which is sort of like conditional crushing strength. If you run through terrain, you lose Thunderous Charge. If you're charging off a hill, you gain Thunderous Charge, that sort of thing. If you're running into spears with phalanx, you lose Thunderous Charge altogether. It depends if you're into that or not. Like if you're used to it, sure, go for your but not many things survive that in the game. Yeah, lots of damage there. The nerve not high enough for that. Rolls his nerve twice because of the inspiring source. And anything but a double 1 means they're gone. And again, if you roll a double 1 when you're rolling to nerve, that unit is fine. You can fight another day, regardless of how much damage they've got. Doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, sometimes in key moments, it can be crucial. And now that the unit is gone, Matt has the option to either move ahead, so overrun, if he's got the room. Otherwise, they can just pivot or step back D3, which is you just roll a dice, 1 to 6, and halve it. Essentially, 1, 2, or 3 inches back. And when you overrun, you just roll a dice, and that's how many inches you go forward. So he just sort of shifted things about, turned the Drakon Riders to face the enslaved guardians that are sitting in the pond. And there wasn't much room for those, for these guys to do anything, so they just shift a little bit that way. And so these guys, if this combat fails, they can pop in, or he can go for Shobik if there's enough room. And then, hopefully, he's still got time to get over the line. They're just trying to get some of the things to balance those units because of the hill. Wibbly wobbly. Yep. That is a good player. I think he's been at Masters for, yeah, like I said, as many years as I can remember. I think his main weakness is himself. often runs the clock down thinking of what to do. And sometimes getting very, very close to timing out and not doing some actions because he can't afford to spend the time rolling dice. Okay, so he's turning the Draconitis the other way, leaving the Enslaved Guardians and Shobik alone, as well as the Archers. Interesting. Okay. We are on to turn 5. Potentially the second last turn. At the end of turn 6, one of the players will roll a dice on a 4, 5 or 6. They will do one more turn, one final turn for turn 7. And we'll just do the marker of where the 50% line or halfway line is. It is around about here. Sort of like that. So if the game were to end right now, Ed would win. Because there's only that one unit of Dragon Riders down the bottom left. While as Ed has the Enslaved Guardians and Shobik over the line. Okay, so we've got a double charge here. So Shobik can see over the head of the Enslaved Guardians. We can't see over the head of Ed. And because of more recent updates, the Enslaved Guardians sort of shuffle over. They sort of slide to make way for Shobik to get in. So that Wind Blast would have been fantastic before this update, because of that slidey shuffly wants it to make these sorts of things a little easier. He's been able to do that. Double charge units, yep, that's it. Multi-charge, double charge. That's the... And then we have the Enslaved Guardian Archers on the right there, charging this poor little mage who did nothing wrong. Why is all the drink gone?
He does, yeah. Yeah, I just don't think about that sort of thing. He should get a lead on his own attacks as well. Yeah, he does. Which will make a difference.
Excuse me.
First, shall we? Yeah. We'll do the money first.
Gotta legless it. I think that's the Mummy Regiment. I think that's 12 dice I can see. With Elite, so reroll 1s to hit. Doing the damage, hitting on, or damaging on 3s. And that's 4 onto the Knights, which won't be enough. There's also a little guy. Forgot, there's the Pharaoh. The Armor Knight Pharaoh. Over here. And I think he cast Host Shadow Beast to give himself some extra damage. He wants it in combat. It only did 1 wound. So that was the previous roll was for the physical attacks of the Pharaoh, and this is the Host Shadow Beast spell, which does nothing. But all that combined damage. He rolled a 9. on the dice to take him off. The mummies did something. Still going to die to the Dragon Rider Horde. And you've got the Theranian Sea Guard as well.
Not that it makes much difference, but mummies D6 forward, so they go through
And because of that combat, Ed's moving or overrunning those mummies. Roll the dice, got a 3, I think. I think the Pharaoh got a 4-inch roll, so he moves 4-inch forwards. Probably out of arc of the Sea Guard, but that doesn't matter. The mummy doesn't score, he doesn't have any unit strength. Alright, so we've got one more combat.
so I'll be hitting on 5.
Pardon me, I think. Not sure which one, if it's either this one or this one, but I guess we'll find out. That was on the mage. 3 damage onto the mage. Alright, now for the combat just above. Shobik, the idol of Shobik. Plunking away. Doesn't have a lot of attacks, but they're good quality attacks. And then the enslaved guardians fighting back against that horde. Ramses the second doing work, yep. Enslaved guardians seem to be doing okay. Doing 9 damage. And if I heard right, that horde is now on 16 damage. Which means he'll need a 7 to take him off. Which looks like it didn't happen. So that horde is still alive for Matt's turn 5. Ed's just counting down the damage markers there because of life leech, so they've done some damage in combat, so they heal a little bit back. Okay, not long left. This should be a nice quick turn. There's not much to think about, Matt. As long as he doesn't forget to move them across the line. Turn 6. The little mage that could disengages from the combat, scoots across. 1, 2, 3 inches. 4 inches? I can't tell. I don't think that should have gone that far because it doesn't have Pathfinder, so you can't sort of at the double in that thing. Good, move them back. Excellent. Kaka, the Dracons. Maybe they were facing the other way. I don't know. That twerking. Griff, it's just difficult to tell which way it's facing. Yeah, getting a bit confused there. Thought they were facing one way. I thought they were facing the mummies. I thought he'd turn them back, but maybe it was that twerky guy spinning about. Anyway, they've hit the Guardian Archers. The Guardian Archers should be gone this turn. You'd think that Mummy Regiment in the lake on the left would also be gone because of the rear charge of the Dracons. That's triple attacks on 18. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 30, 50... 4 attacks? And now he's just booking it with that horde. Now he's thinking about the objective. at the double, moving twice the speed. Elves is speed 6, so moving 12, getting him across the line. So unless Ed can somehow stop that, which I don't think he can, Matt should have this. Hey, 54. Excellent. Do I play in tournaments? Yeah, I do. Not too many. Well, not as many as I'd like. Just because of the distance I have to travel. It's usually 2 hours to get to Melbourne. 2.5 if the tournament's on the other side of Melbourne. And I've attended Masters before when it was hosted in Melbourne as a contender. Got in there with my stellar performance with my goblins, if I do say so myself, and a bit of luck. And I will be attending the Clash of Kings tournament in January on the Australia Day weekend. Don't know what I'm going to take yet. Maybe my herd again, maybe not. Maybe the goblins or Abyssal Dwarfs if I get them painted up in time.
Shout out to the sponsor.
Well, shout out to the sponsor, which is Scorched Earth Design. Looks like they do custom laser design, terrain tokens, bases, and game accessories. Any size, any scale. Scorched.earth1616 at gmail.com. Or their Facebook or whatever. Sure, I'll check them out later. Those who can't do commentate. Wait, this is a service. It's a 7-hour drive to get here just to watch other people play games while I talk. But someone's got to do it. Well, they don't have to, but someone should do it. And I guess that person is me. So no more shooting, straight down to the combat. Big old bucket of dice. Rear charge, I'm guessing. Yep. This will be a fresh charge, so those Dracons will be hitting on 4s instead of 3s. They will lose their Thunderous Charge because of the water. And so it's just a crushing 1, which means they're wounding on 4s. Oh yeah, and Elves are elite, so any 1s that he rolls to hit, he can re-roll. Looks like there's a few 1s there as well. But there were a lot of low rolls right there. So that was only part way of the attack. So that wasn't 54 dice. They were just getting a bit confused as to how many dice I should actually roll. Might be getting a bit flustered now, might be running short on time. So how does tomorrow work? Does everybody play, or is it like... No, everybody plays. Everyone plays, all 5. Is this a 5-game tournament? It's not sort of split into the top bunch on day 1 plays team 2. I guess because if most people are travelling out to a tournament, they sort of want to get all the games in. They might not especially be in the running for top spot, but this is games. Rolling that nerve check for the mummies. Hey, not good for Ed. It's just about done. And that's the mummies gone. leaving very little left. That horde is still on Ed's side, so it's scoring. That infantry horde is on Ed's side, so that'll be scoring. Today we've just been trying to stream a couple of the interesting matchups, not necessarily the top guys. But tomorrow will be the alright, here's the top. Let's see what they can do. There's only 2 games tomorrow. And then driving home straight after. Yep. 1 out of 36. If you've done enough damage to get to the point where you only need a 1 and a 1, a double 1 on the 2 dice, and that's all you need. But again, if you roll a double 1, that unit holds, doesn't get taken off. So really, you want to be rolling 3. Anything but a double 1. I guess that's just how we sort of shorthand it. Just double 1 it, so if you roll a double 1, that's bad. I guess we should say anything but double 1, but that's an extra word that we don't need. Again, we've got the double 1s again, rolling once, rolling twice. No double 1s, so they're off. They're just 2 damaged. Oof, that's a precarious positioning on that hill. Don't breathe, otherwise it'll fall over. I'm looking forward to not saying anything after the games. What the heck did I just do? I don't know what I've done. I've done something to this stream to make that turnaround disappear. How about I just get rid of it? Start fresh. So we've got some more damage coming in. Well, he's trying to anyway. That Armonite Pharaoh casting Host Shadow Beast on himself to make him a bit more of a combat monster. So, and he's done enough damage to that Drakon Rider Horde to take him off. Go Little Ramses the Second. The power of a reasonable combat character with the added benefit of the Host Shadow Beast spell, giving him extra attacks. This is the last round for today. Only 3 games today. Which is good, because I'm done. I'm cooked. Looks like Shobik has also charged into that horde of Seaguard. Hit them in the flank. He might be able to do something. Right in the center there. He might claw it back. He has to convert that wounds though. The Theranian Seaguard are currently on 12. Ed needs to roll high. He rolls a 7, bring him to 19, which is not enough. The Seaguard is alive. So after defeating the Guardian Archers in the last round, he sort of pivoted to face,
Oh, you're going to double do it?
and he's going to try take out Shobik, charging with both the Seaguard Horde as well as the Drakon Riders. And counter-charging with the Horde that got charged. Argus Renar moving forward, just to try and claim some points there. It's still a scoring unit, even though it doesn't really do a whole lot. No worries, Josh. Glad for you for jumping in. Hopefully you've learnt something, picked up something, or has held your interest at the very least. Looks like some spells are being cast onto that horde of Seaguard right in the centre there, the one that's charged. Shobik in the butt. That Shobik's gone. I mean, he's a tough cookie, but when you're getting rear-ended by a horde of infantry and some Drakon Riders, you have to be pretty unlucky to not have that disappear. Now we've just got like, what's that, 54 dice from the Drakon Riders in the back, 75 from the Horde in the front, 25 from the Horde in the front, wait, 75 from the one in the back. 154 dice he has to roll? I'll just have a quick look-see at the clock. Yeah. Just curious to see what was left. 3 minutes on Matt's clock. Though the tournament packs does say, if you run out of time and you're sort of like midway through a combat, you can just finish the dice on that one. But you can't do anything else. Can't do anything new. That is all. Yep. Just a measly 154. This is what happens when you recharge things. Not just recharge things with hordes. I guess the time matters that if he does manage to roll this out, take him off, and it goes to a turn 7, and if Matt is not yet across the board, he won't be able to if he's timed out. Not like that Ed can do anything about it. Maybe his little Pharaoh can go in and kill something else, like it's been doing. Doing some work, that little guy. Rolling all the dice. I think Ed just sort of gave up and said, yeah, just double one. And they called it. I think they're just going to agree that they're over. He's just measuring the halfway point. So after the fight, the Drakon Rider Horde will move sideways. And the other one moves sideways to try and get them across the board. Meaning everything that survived there is across the board. And just a reminder, after combat, you can choose to move D3, sideways, backways, or D6 forwards. I don't know why he's moving forward. Why would you do that? Just move him back. Anyway. No turn 7. 1, 2 or 3, no turn 7. 4, 5, 6, there is. Game ended. Obviously, Matt wins this game. Because Ed has nothing. Nothing that scores, at least. And there we have it. Round 3 done. I'm not going to post the current standings in this stream. I'm bushed. What we will do is post it on the Directness Fire Facebook page, And I will also reiterate that at the start of, oh, pardon me, round 4 tomorrow. Wait, let me just change this. There we go. Alright, and we're done. So what is the time of 45 each? It's an hour each. Yeah. Have a safe drive. Not driving yet. Driving tomorrow. I'm not sure if you're going to be on to chat tomorrow, but if not, thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a long day tomorrow. But there we go. 3 rounds of the Australian Kings of War Masters down with 2 more to go. Tomorrow we will pick probably tables, whoever's in the running for table 2 or whatever, and table 1 to see who is going to take top spot for this year. Lost my words there for a moment. I've said too many. Yes, a couple more drinks in this evening and relax and maybe a shower because this suit is not the coolest. Right. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Again, I'll pop a link in the stream when we're up for round 4 if you'd like to jump in.